Medium. Should you play it? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tefty, and this will be a spoiler-free review of the game Medium. What is this game? At its core, it's a psychological thriller/horror game with a major callback to Resident Evil 1 tank controls and camera angles, with vibes of Outlast, minus all the extreme gruesome parts of Outlast. Is the game disturbing? Yes, absolutely, but more in the mind's eye supernatural nightmare type of disturbing. It dances between heaven and hell vibes and what happens to souls that get stuck and don't pass on to the other side. You play as Marianne, who is, surprise, a medium that gets a mysterious call about an abandoned facility in the woods. And yeah, it's haunted and spooky. Thing is, Marianne isn't fazed by any of this weird stuff. She's lived a life of talking to the dead and seeing pseudo-demonic forms in the shadows. She helps troubled souls move on. It's like her thing. So you kind of get a sense of safety playing the game because she's so nonchalant about spooky ghosts and stuff. At Neva, the abandoned facility, she meets some next level spooks that challenge her medium abilities. The story is actually quite complex and interwoven. Much of it's revealed by picking up objects and sensing the echoes of the past in the items. The levels look beautiful, rich, and full of detail. You can tell a lot of love was put into this game. Medium also does the split screen thing during parts of the game, which is cool, sort of. It gets gimmicky after a couple times. You don't get to control it, which I was a bit disappointed about. So only certain areas will do split screen. Some areas can only be reached via the outer body experience mode, which leaves your IRL body behind while you explore as your spirit self for a limited time. The split screen setup allows you to easily see changes from both worlds at the same time, which definitely comes in handy for a few puzzles. And in some areas, you travel back and forth between the planes of existence, which I prefer over the split screen thing. The coolest feature gameplay-wise is this whole dual existence thing that Marianne has control over at times. There's no guns you control in this game. Combat is all but non-existent. Definitely think of Outlast. You can explore and solve puzzles, but any real threat you have to sneak around or run away from, for the most part. In terms of level design, again, graphically, they are detailed and beautiful in a disturbing way. Gameplay-wise, I think it's just a bit lacking. You can tell inspiration was taken from Resident Evil 1, which I appreciate, but the levels lacked a lot of the aha moments of knowing you can go and unlock certain areas now. Also, there's no backtrack into early levels. Once you've completed an area, you are moving forward. So there's this element of Resident Evil 1 puzzle solving and unlocking for areas, but it's very rudimentary and doesn't lead to Act 3 everything's connected type of puzzles. In fact, all the puzzles are really simple. This game is not meant to challenge you in any significant way, except maybe psychologically. The actual threats you face in the game are all heavily scripted and clear. You definitely know when you're in danger in this game. The AI isn't anything special either. It's very clear how to sneak around stuff. I'd say it's definitely more of an experience game than an action game, although there is some action here and there. No spoilers. This is actually one of my main disappointments about the game. The existential threat or fear in the game felt very bite-sized and packaged, meaning after a couple hours, I wasn't afraid of suddenly bumping into a nightmare or losing my life. It just felt very scripted, which took a lot of the edge off of the potential fear department in this game. Now there is times when you could die, for sure, but you know when it's possible. There's no like surprise death or gotcha moment suddenly. Another strange thing that bugged me was the lack of a map. It wasn't hard to follow and remember where things were, but there were maps on the wall in multiple areas that said you are here. So like, why not just give me a map? You know, it's just a little nitpicky thing. I survived without a map completely fine, but it would have been nice to be able to open one up. I will say that the meat of this game is the story that it tells. And again, it's complex and very interwoven. If you're not paying attention, you'll be very confused as to what's happening in these echoes that you trigger through exploration. There's a fair amount of cutscenes too. It's very much a thriller movie played out in a game. The facial animations can be a bit strange at times, kind of stiff, but it didn't really kill the experience for me. My biggest disappointment in the story was the amount of time it really took to get to some action. The first part was definitely a slow burn, and I think it took a good 2 hours before anything of real substance started to develop for me, which was directly tied to getting hints at any real threat that existed at Neva, the abandoned facility. Again, this is a spoiler for review, so I'm not spilling the beans, but I kind of wish that the first 2 to 3 hours was packed into a quick 30 minutes to get you going in the game. And obviously this is all my opinion, so you might play the beginning hours and absolutely love it and say, what are you talking about, Tefty? But I think if the game was more terrifying in the beginning and had just more threat in general, then I'd have a different opinion about this. After that beginning hurdle, the story really picks up. Things get very interesting as you peel the layers back from each area, all the way up until the cliffhanger ending. One thing I want to make very clear in this review is that the game is filled with mood and vibe. You can tell it was lovingly crafted from environment to environment. And it was a real treat seeing the various areas with the whole duality and planes of existence type of thing going on in the game. And the musical score is beautifully crafted. It adds tons of moody, spooky vibe to the game. Just really enhances it. From a technical viewpoint, the graphics were good, but not groundbreaking. I played on PC with an RTX 3070 card at 1440p with ray tracing on. It struggled to maintain 60 FPS in a lot of areas. Some areas even dropped to like 5 FPS when I picked up items. Now this could have been because the drivers need to be updated. I'm assuming it's just the optimization isn't quite there yet for the game. And that could get fixed in the future, obviously. What's weird is that it clearly struggled in some areas, but it didn't look graphically like it should struggle in those areas. So yeah, oddly demanding for PCs. I do hear the Xbox version is a little more evened out, but I have no personal experience with it, so I can't say. I don't own a Series X yet. So with all that said, what is my final score, and should you play medium? I give this game a 7 out of 10. Now I'm going to list out the reasons why I gave it a 7 out of 10. First up, beginning of the story was a slow burn. I think that definitely could have been better. The puzzles were all very simple. The level design could have had more complexity, especially with the whole split world type of thing going on. And the fear department was not nearly as threatening as I thought it could have been. Definitely thought there could have been more just threat in general playing the game for the type of spookiness that it wanted to give you. And the graphical performance was pretty bad on PC, but honestly that could get patched in the future, so I didn't really weigh that much into the 7 out of 10 score for that. Plus you could play it on an Xbox Series X as well. So now that you know my score, the question is, should you play it? If you have Game Pass, 100% absolutely. Like, what's stopping you? You have Game Pass, you have the game. You could download it right now and play it. Unless you don't want to be scared, ever, at all. Or you have no desire for a heavily story-based, slow burn game with little action. That would be fair too. Now, if you gotta buy this game at full price, I think it's a bit costly. I mean, 50 bucks for a game that clocks about 8 to 10 hours for a general playthrough. Also, I didn't notice anything that you could do after beating it. I mean, I got most of the achievements. I think it was like 25 out of 31 or something like that. So most of the achievements were done from just a general playthrough. And 50 bucks for that? It's a bit pricey, honestly. Which honestly makes me think that they intended this to be a Game Pass entry. Like, it's a great Game Pass game. It's like, oh, you got Game Pass? Suddenly you can play this, like, psychological thriller? Awesome, right? If you do plan on buying it, maybe you could wait for a Steam sale. I think that would be better, personally. But if you got Game Pass, I mean, Game Pass is fantastic. As always, this is my opinion, so please take it with a grain of salt. And that also wraps up this video, guys. If you watched all the way to the end, thank you very much. That is amazing. I really appreciate that. I've really been enjoying making these review videos as well, and I'm looking forward to doing more. If you'd like to support the channel, you can always leave me a comment below. Hit the like button, sub button as well, and notification buttons when I drop new videos. I plan on doing weekly drops, weekly uploads on this channel. So if you're looking forward to that, then make sure to hit that notification bell. And that's it. I will see you next time. Peace.